Greetings everyone. I'm now doing the outdoor paper mache process, and what I've been working on is doing this full entire skeleton before I do the whole horse skeleton that I've been working on. And so this skull here is one of the last pieces I've been working on, and it'll go to the whole skeleton here. It only has one layer of the paper mache on it as of right now. This skull here has two layers of the paper mache, and it also has a layer of this sealant paint on top of it to help protect the whole paper mache. Because at this stage here, it'll take in water. And then I got this third skull here, which has the sealant on top of it, but then it also has Flex Bond thin set mortar on top of it, and I did one layer of that, and it feels really solid at this stage. But the problem is I can't get the jaw part into where it's supposed to articulate at. The thin set becomes too thick and rigid, and it becomes like a brick. So parts that need to articulate or move doesn't really work anymore. So I think the thin set would work better for single pieces, like a tombstone, or more structural pieces. But pieces that need to move and articulate, I would forego doing the thin set mortar. And so all of these skulls are made out of paper. I'm just using either cardstock printer paper or using Staples poster board paper. But while the pieces are still flat, when I get done cutting out the different templates to assemble these different pieces, I then spray it with Flex Seal to give it a first initial layer of protection. Because once I start assembling everything, I can't exactly get underneath these pieces anymore. And so spraying it gives it a good first layer of protection before even putting on the paper mache. And this is actually quite sturdy with just one layer. And then two layers, I wouldn't be able to crush this easily. But then I got this one with the mortar on it. And even with just one layer of that, is also very sturdy. And so the material, when the paper mache dries, it takes about 3 days for it to completely solidify. It becomes quite hard. It has some flex remaining to it, but it will be kind of brittle, and it'll crack if you put too much flex into it. Parts like these, where it's a lot more thin, it still has that flexibility to it. But other thicker parts, kind of like where I have in here down by the legs of my skeleton, it's really stiff and brittle, and it'll end up cracking and breaking. But what you can do is, if you get parts like that, you can soak it in water. It'll take in water and it'll become soft, and then from there you'll be able to actually shape it again, which is pretty nice for being able to work and manipulate the paper mache. And so it makes working with a lot of pieces where things need to articulate, makes it a lot easier. But also, when the material dries, and since it becomes pretty strong, it can actually have screws, and then it can hold in screws. The other benefit is that it can also easily be repaired or added to if in case parts break or come up short. Because like what I had to do for the vertebrae here in this back is I had to make little extra strips of paper mache and kind of weld it together in that sense, gluing everything together. But so it's very, very nice and easy to be able to manipulate it, which is really nice for the material. Now, I am still experimenting with the whole paper mache process, but so far I've been liking how it's been turning out. When it comes to a lot of pieces that need to articulate, I would just do just the paper mache. The mortar mache becomes too thick, and like I can't get that jaw together. But with just this one layer of paper mache, I can still put it together, and it still works just fine. But I'm still experimenting with as far as how much can I get out of this technique, because it's quite strong. I'm wondering if I might be able to eventually make different structures, like buildings or other type of things for like Halloween displays or whatever else. But I think the mortar mache would be good for single piece things, like I said before. Things that don't need to articulate, or something that's more of like a sculpture for outside. Because this skull that I made, I set it outside for the entire month of October, where we actually had a decent amount of rain, and it still looked perfectly fine. It survived all the weather that we had, and there was no issues with it at all. So I still have further experimentation to do with seeing how long it could stay outside, or if for storing it out in the shed or whatever for hot and cold, depending on moisture, to see if it would still end up surviving. But I have not tested with just the one layer, not using the mortar mache. So there's still quite a bit more that I have to do with experimenting with it, but so far I'm actually feeling pretty good on it.